too late.
I was standing by the window in room 508 of a mid-tier business hotel, drinking coffee that tasted like it had been brewing since yesterday morning, half-heartedly reviewing presentation slides for a client pitch I barely cared about anymore. The phone rang around 8:30 a.m. Front desk. Polite, professional voice. Then the receptionist said something that actually made me laugh out loud, because it sounded so absurd I assumed it had to be some kind of mistake. "Sir, I apologize for the confusion, but there appears to be a duplicate reservation issue. Your wife checked into the hotel yesterday afternoon with a guest, and we have you listed as well." Unborn, I actually chuckled into the phone. "That's impossible. My wife is at home with our 2 kids right now." Relinquished silence that followed stretched way too long. I could hear something in the background, papers being shuffled, someone breathing carefully like they were choosing their next words. Then, very quietly, "Sir, could you please come down to the lobby? I think we need to discuss this in person." The line went dead before I could ask anything else. I stood there completely frozen for maybe 5 full seconds before my body caught up with my brain. That's exactly how long it took for my hands to start going numb and cold. I looked around the hotel room like somehow the furniture or the walls could provide an explanation for what I'd just heard. My suitcase sitting neatly on the luggage rack. The dress shirt I'd carefully ironed that morning hanging on the bathroom door. The silence of what should have been a completely normal morning now felt radioactive, wrong. The elevator ride down felt like sinking into deep water. Slow, silent, heavy, surreal. When the doors finally opened to the lobby, the manager was already standing there waiting for me. Nervous smile plastered on his face, clipboard clutched in trembling hands, gesturing quickly for me to follow him behind the front desk, toward a small office in the back. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't a wrong number. This wasn't mistaken identity. This was real, and I could feel it in my gut. The office door clicked shut behind me, and I saw him turn a computer monitor in my direction. Security footage. Grainy black and white video feed from the hotel lobby, clearly time-stamped from the previous day. 5:47 p.m. yesterday evening, the manager whispered, pointing with a shaking finger at the screen. "Right here." Millions in closer, squinting at the grainy footage. And there she was, my wife Jennifer. Not someone who vaguely resembled her or maybe looked like her from a certain angle. It was absolutely, unmistakably 100% her. Same distinctive walk, same gray coat she wears to work, hair pulled up in that specific way she always does when she's playing the corporate professional role. Smiling like she was 22 years old again and didn't have a care in the world. Next to her walked a man I had never seen before in my entire life. Tall, confident posture, wearing one of those slightly too slim designer suits that guys in middle management wear when they think they're really pulling off the executive look. As I watched, she reached out and touched his arm deliberately as they walked toward the elevator bank. Not a casual brush or accidental contact. A deliberate, familiar, comfortable touch. I watched her press the elevator call button. While they stood there waiting, she leaned in and kissed his cheek. Not a quick peck. A real kiss. They both laughed at something one of them said. Then the elevator doors opened with a ding, and they stepped inside together, disappearing from the camera's view. The manager stood about a foot behind me, trying not to breathe too loudly. I could hear him fidgeting nervously with his pen, clicking it repeatedly. "I thought you already knew about this," he finally muttered, sounding like a man who'd seen too much and said too little. "I'm really sorry." I didn't turn around or respond, just kept staring at the screen where they'd disappeared. Finally, I pointed at the monitor. "Can you email me a copy of this footage?" He nodded quickly, fingers already moving toward the keyboard. "Do you want footage from the suite level as well? They used her name for the reservation, so I can pull up everything we have." "Every angle you have. Send it all." I gave him an old burner email address I hadn't used in probably 4 years, one I kept specifically for situations where I needed something off the main grid. Then I turned and walked out of that office without another word. I didn't go straight back to my room, though. First, I stepped outside into the cold morning air. I needed to breathe something that wasn't recycled hotel ventilation system air. Needed to feel something real. That surveillance footage wasn't just some spontaneous mistake or random coincidence. What I just watched showed comfort, familiarity, coordination, planning. She hadn't accidentally stumbled into some impulsive fling. She'd organized this, planned it out, which meant I wasn't just a husband being kept in the dark. I was a decoration, a prop, something she'd placed neatly on the shelf of her life while she moved forward building whatever new version of herself she thought she could construct from hotel sheets and room service menus. I called no one right away. I told no one what I'd just seen. I just went back upstairs to my room, locked the door, pulled the curtains shut, and opened my laptop on the desk. Let me be absolutely clear about something here. I wasn't sitting there planning revenge or thinking about how to hurt her back. I was planning clarity, documentation, understanding. Because if she was here in this hotel with some random man I'd never met, then who the hell was actually home watching our kids right now? And if you don't think that question made my vision go completely dark for a solid few seconds, you've clearly never had your entire world flip upside down before breakfast. The thing about surveillance footage that nobody really tells you is how silent it is. No background noise, no ambient sounds, no laughter, no footsteps, just movement captured on camera. Her movement, his movement. My wife brushing her hair off her shoulder the way she always does, right before she's about to make someone feel special and valued. Him leaning in close to her, and she didn't flinch away or create distance. She smiled wider instead. That specific kind of smile I used to think was reserved exclusively for anniversary dinners and Sunday mornings making pancakes with the kids. The timestamp in the top left corner of the screen made everything so much worse. 5:47 p.m. yesterday. At exactly 5:47 p.m. yesterday, I was on a video call with my youngest son, Marcus, helping him finish a math worksheet from 3 states away. He was whining and complaining about fraction problems being too hard. I remember telling him his mom would help him more after dinner, that she was probably downstairs making tacos or spaghetti or something. Meanwhile, in reality, she was here in this hotel lobby, pressed up close against some stranger in the elevator area of a hotel we'd both personally stayed at dozens of times over the years for various work trips. The same hotel where she once specifically complained about the pillows being too firm. Where we'd once made love after a client gala, just because it felt spontaneous and exciting. She kissed him on the footage. Not a quick, friendly peck. A practiced, easy, comfortable kiss. Like this definitely wasn't their first time together. I opened my phone contacts and scrolled down to a name I hadn't touched in probably 5 years. Brian Matthews, old law school roommate who is now a corporate litigation attorney based in Seattle. We used to joke constantly that he'd end up defending war criminals, and I'd wind up suing God himself. He'd successfully carved out a very lucrative niche doing internal corporate compliance investigations and detailed background sweeps for billion-dollar firms who needed things done quietly. Most importantly for my current situation, he owed me a significant favor. I'd taken the fall for a bar exam prank he'd orchestrated back in school, completely saved his entire career trajectory before it even properly started. I'd never once asked for repayment until right now. I called his direct cell. He picked up after exactly 2 rings, his voice still fast and cocky like it always was. If you're calling me from a county jail cell somewhere, I absolutely swear I'm not bailing you out this time. Brian, I need a favor from you. Has to be quiet and fast, completely off any official record. Migration. Immediate silence on the line. Then his entire tone shifted dramatically. What's going on? Are you in trouble? I just sent you a file to your secure email account. Check it now. Derek Palmer. Market priority. Ragazzo silence. I could hear rapid typing in the background. All right, I've got it downloading now. Who exactly is this guy to you? He's my wife's regional director at her company. I need absolutely everything you can possibly find on him. Full employment history, current marital status, any HR complaints filed against him, financial records if you can access them discreetly. And I need all of it clean, with no flags raised anywhere in any system. You think this guy is dirty? I think he's currently in a hotel suite with my wife right this second, and my 2 kids are completely missing with no one knowing their actual location. Triumph. That statement got his complete and total attention immediately. Jesus Christ, man. Okay. Give me 3 hours maximum. Not 2 hours. I hung up before he could respond, and just sat there in the heavy silence. Nothing but the quiet mechanical hum of the mini-fridge and some muffled TV sounds coming through the wall from an adjacent room. Mundane hotel background noise, like the entire world outside was still pretending everything was completely normal. I couldn't just sit still anymore. I paced back and forth across the room. I pulled up the security footage again on my phone, where the manager had already sent it. I zoomed in and examined every single frame, every gesture, every smile she gave this man, every touch. I was searching desperately for some flicker of doubt or guilt or hesitation in her eyes. There was absolutely nothing. She looked genuinely happy. Worse than happy, she looked certain, sure, comfortable. Then my brain started working more clearly through the shock. If she was here at this hotel yesterday evening, then who was actually watching Marcus and Sophie at home? I hadn't talked directly to either of them since that afternoon video call with Marcus about his homework. I'd fully planned to call again in the evening, but I'd gotten caught up responding to a long chain of client emails, and then fell asleep early after the exhausting pitch session. No big deal at the time, I'd thought. I pulled out my phone and texted my mother-in-law, Patricia. Simple message. Hey, everything okay at home with everyone? The reply came back within maybe 30 seconds. With the kids? I thought they were with you two at that leadership conference retreat thing. I stared at my phone screen. Conference retreat? What conference retreat? I immediately called her. She picked up on the first ring, already sounding confused and concerned. Is something wrong? I thought you and Jennifer were both at that leadership retreat she mentioned last week when I talked to her. She said it was very last minute, but that you'd both be tied up with sessions and workshops, and the kids would get to come along for fun activities. I felt my voice go completely flat and emotionless. I'm not at any retreat or conference, Patricia. I'm on a solo business trip, completely alone. Very long pause. I could hear her breathing. Wait, so the kids aren't actually with you right now? No, they're supposed to be home where they always are. She made a small gasping sound. Oh my God, where are they then? I hung up and immediately dialed the school's main office number. I use my serious dad voice, the one that doesn't make jokes or engage in small talk, just gets information. Hi, this is Robert Chen. Can you please confirm for me whether Marcus Chen or Sophie Chen were marked present at school yesterday or today? The administrative woman on the other end hesitated. I could hear computer keys clicking rapidly. Let me check that for you. No, I'm showing neither student was marked present yesterday or today. I'm sorry, I just assumed it was a family trip of some kind. We weren't formally notified of any planned absence through the proper channels. I felt like I might drop my phone. My hands were actually sweating now, not from fear exactly, but from the absolute iron certainty that something was very, very wrong, beyond just the affair. Next, I called our regular weekend babysitter. Michelle, 17 years old, really sweet kid who genuinely loves watching the kids, and they love her back. She picked up, sounding slightly rushed and distracted. Oh, hey, Mr. Chen, I wasn't expecting you to call. Is everything okay there? Michelle, where are the kids right now? A pause that lasted way too long for comfort. They're with that family friend at the lake house, right? The one your wife said she booked last minute for them. Remember? Terminated. I need the exact address of that location right now. I don't actually have it. She just told me it was somewhere about 2 hours north of here. She gave me specific instructions for a pickup location where I should drop them off. I figured it was just a fun vacation thing. They both seemed super excited about it when I picked them up. Michelle, did you physically see this lake house yourself with your own eyes? No, it was already pretty late in the evening when I did the drop-off. She had me meet a driver at that Shell gas station off Route 11. He told me he'd take them the rest of the way from there. Your wife specifically said he was someone who worked with Derek's team at the company, so I figured it was completely fine and safe. Misled twisted violently. What did this driver look like? Describe him. I don't really remember much detail. Maybe late 30s? He was wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses, even though it was already getting dark outside. Black SUV. She said he was with the company, so I didn't think to ask more questions. I hung up without even saying goodbye. My wife had deliberately orchestrated a complete handoff of my 2 children to an unknown location that nobody could name, with a person I'd never met or heard of, following instructions that came from the exact same man she'd just checked into this hotel with. That wasn't some innocent weekend getaway for the kids. That was a calculated, strategic removal. I opened the old GPS family tracking account I'd originally set up on both kids' iPads several years ago, after Sophie had wandered off during a camping trip, and we couldn't find her for 20 absolutely terrifying minutes. I pinged both devices through the system. No signal whatsoever on either one. Both were either completely powered off or totally out of any cellular range. My daughter doesn't go a single hour without watching her drawing tutorial videos online. My son practically lives on his mobile games. They're literally never offline unless someone physically forces them to be. Suddenly, every single piece of this situation wasn't about marital infidelity anymore. This was about custody maneuvering, control, and strategic containment. I opened a new document on my laptop and titled it Child Transfer Documentation and Timeline. I methodically logged every single phone call I'd just made with precise timestamps, documented each conversation in detail, listed every piece of information. No school attendance for either child. No known physical location. False information deliberately given to family members and babysitter. I saved everything into a folder I labeled Primary Evidence Package and flagged it urgent in red. Brian called me back in exactly 84 minutes. That's all the time it took him. "You are absolutely right to call me about this," he said, voice tight and serious. The guy's full name is Derek James Palmer. Currently married, 2 children, lives in Boulder. Wife's name is Amanda. They've been married for 17 years according to public records. Relinquished, and I could hear him breathing carefully. But here's the really important part you need to know. He's already under active HR investigation at the company. 2 completely separate formal complaints were filed against him within the last 7 months. Both complaints came from junior-level female employees working in the organization. One of those complaints specifically came from someone in your wife's exact office location. My jaw clenched so hard I could feel my teeth grinding together. Have the complaints been officially filed, or are they being buried and hidden? They're still technically under internal review according to what I could access, but based on the documentation I pulled from their systems, the complaints specifically cite inappropriate personal comments, excessive unwanted attention, and something about a closed-door one-on-one mentoring session that clearly crossed professional boundaries. Of course, he wasn't some new player making his first mistake. He was a serial operator, a repeat offender, the kind of man who deliberately weaponizes his corporate position, his professional credibility, his authority in the organizational hierarchy. And my wife was either his newest target or his active, willing accomplice in all of this. Is there anything else I should know about this guy? Glenn, his financial records look pretty solid on the surface level, but there's a clear pattern in his expense reports. He routinely uses personal credit cards to book supposedly work-related travel, then files for corporate reimbursement afterward. It allows him to skirt around some of the company's standard internal reporting requirements and oversight. This particular weekend hotel adventure of his is definitely going to set off major alarm bells once the right people see the documentation. Resigned nodded, even though he obviously couldn't see me through the phone. Thanks, Brian. You just gave me exactly everything I needed. Are you planning to file something official? Not yet. Not quite yet. A pause on his end. Are you okay? Seriously. Surrendered. Not even remotely. I hung up the call. But I still wasn't finished with my investigation. Years ago, right after a major security breach at my workplace had almost cost us a massive merger deal, I'd started quietly setting up monitoring and logging on all shared family devices. I'd installed automatic cloud sync on all our family iPads and phones, supposedly just so we could conveniently share photos of the kids back and forth. Jennifer had completely forgotten that system even existed. I never had. I logged into the old monitoring platform using credentials I hadn't touched in maybe 4 years. I pulled up her iPad's recent activity logs. The device had automatically synced itself to this hotel's guest Wi-Fi network last night at exactly 11:47 p.m. 6 photos had been uploaded to the shared family cloud storage. I opened them one by one, hands steady. The first photo showed a champagne toast in bed, 2 glasses raised, her painted fingernails clearly visible in the shot, wedding ring conspicuously absent from her finger. The second photo was her holding up a hotel room keycard like it was some kind of trophy or prize. Room number 1206 was clearly visible in the bottom corner of the card. The third photo made my hands actually shake, not from emotional pain, but from the sheer audacity and arrogance of it. She was laughing with her head thrown completely back in that deep, genuine, unrestrained way I genuinely hadn't seen from her since maybe our 10th wedding anniversary. Her hair was down and loose. She was wearing that specific navy blue silk robe I'd bought for her during a work layover in Milan about 3 years ago. Around her neck, clearly visible, was the sapphire pendant necklace I'd personally given her the exact night we finally paid off our mortgage. And resting comfortably, possessively on her thigh was his hand, visible in the frame, casual, like they weren't even pretending to hide anything anymore. I leaned back in the desk chair and just forced myself to breathe steadily for a full minute. Still no explosive rage. Not yet, anyway. Just absolute crystal clarity. Because this wasn't just surveillance footage or speculation anymore. This wasn't, maybe it's not what it looks like, or there might be an explanation. It was exactly what it looked like. And now I had timestamps, faces, location data, GPS coordinates, physical evidence. She didn't just cheat on me. She documented the entire thing like she was proud of it, like she wanted a record. I systematically copied all the photo files into my encrypted evidence drive, added detailed metadata tags to each one. I ran a reverse geolocation lookup on the embedded photo GPS data and confirmed the exact coordinates matched this specific hotel. Same floor as the suite Derek had apparently booked under her name and information. She'd been incredibly sloppy and careless. I was not. I pulled up our shared credit card account online and ran a search filtering transactions by location. There it was, clear as daylight. Pending charge for exactly $418.72 at this specific hotel property. Executive double suite accommodation. Check-in timestamp yesterday at 5:43 p.m. She'd deliberately used the corporate travel credit card I'd personally set up in her name 5 years ago for legitimate work trips. She hadn't even made the slightest attempt to hide any of this. There's a massive fundamental difference between a spontaneous affair driven by impulse and a calculated logistical betrayal driven by planning. One is selfish and emotional. The other is strategic and cold. This wasn't lust or passion or a weak moment. This was deliberate planning and coordination. And it wasn't just simple betrayal of our marriage. It was pure arrogance. She'd assumed I would never find out, that I was too far away geographically, too busy with work, too trusting. She'd counted on me being dependable and predictable. And dependable, predictable men get cheated on quietly, without ever knowing. I opened a new encrypted folder on my laptop and carefully named it Primary Evidence Package, Complete. I systematically dragged in absolutely everything. The security camera footage files, all the photos from her iPad with full metadata intact, the credit card transaction records, the school attendance confirmation emails, the babysitter's detailed statement, Derek's HR complaint history Brian had pulled, his complete background check results, all the GPS tracking data. Then, I created an extremely detailed timeline document, carefully mapping out every single event chronologically, with all supporting evidence properly attached and cross-referenced. At exactly 7:05 p.m., I composed an email message. The recipient was William Harrison, Senior Vice President of the Eastern Division, my wife's boss's boss in the corporate hierarchy. A man who, according to his official company website biography, took corporate integrity and ethics extremely seriously. A man who'd actually been quoted in a mandatory HR training video saying, "We either protect our culture or we step aside immediately and let someone else do it." Premenly, perfect target. The email itself was deliberately short and surgical. Professional tone. Mr. Harrison, I thought you would want to be made aware of who your regional director is currently traveling with and whose name appears on the hotel reservation documentation. Below that single sentence, I attached one clean, professionally formatted PDF file. I'd titled it simply, Palmer Corporate Compliance Matter. Urgent Review Required. Inside that PDF package, still frame screenshots from the security camera footage, clearly showing Derek and Jennifer kissing at the hotel elevator. Her handwritten signature on the official hotel check-in documentation forms. The complete reservation details, showing her name and our family credit card information. A comprehensive summary of Derek's existing HR complaints, complete with official case numbers and current internal review status. The champagne in bed photograph with her sapphire pendant clearly visible. Timestamped screenshots from the iPad upload, including complete embedded geolocation coordinate data. Official school attendance records, showing both children marked absent without any formal prior notification through proper channels. Extremely detailed notes documenting the unauthorized child handoff to an unidentified adult male driver. According to the babysitter's sworn statement, I'd had her write out and sign. No emotional commentary anywhere. No angry accusations or heated language. Just cold, hard, documented facts, arranged in a clear sequence that spoke far louder than any accusation could ever speak. I clicked send at exactly 7:05 p.m. and 12 seconds. Then, I deliberately put my phone face down on the desk, stood up, walked to the window, and pulled back the heavy curtains. I stared out at the amber parking lot streetlights stretching across the pavement below. Something subtle but significant shifted in the air of that room. Not like approaching thunder or a coming storm. More like that precise moment right before a surgical scalpel makes its first clean cut. Controlled, deliberate, precise. Within exactly 10 minutes, my email system's read receipt notification confirmed it. Harrison had opened the message and downloaded the attachment. The corporate chain reaction had officially begun its sequence. I understood exactly how these corporate organizational systems and hierarchies functioned, because I'd personally helped design compliance policies exactly like the ones Derek had just massively violated. There's always one very specific point where any organization stops protecting the individual employee and starts protecting itself and its liability exposure instead. That critical point usually arrives wrapped up in carefully worded PDF documents sent by someone who has absolutely nothing left to lose. Jennifer had absolutely no idea what had just been set into motion in those corporate channels. And the beauty of it was, she wouldn't see any of it coming until it was far too late. She'd start feeling the tremors first. Small things. A scheduled meeting that gets suddenly rescheduled with no explanation. A polite but unusual email from HR asking about her availability for a call. A glance from a coworker in the hallway that lingers just slightly too long. Derek's tone changing when he talks to her. Him suddenly avoiding direct eye contact. Then would come the official call from someone upstairs. Then the formal questions. Then the slow realization. And that's exactly when she'd finally reach desperately for her phone. That's when she'd start frantically dialing my number over and over. And that's precisely when she'd discover that I hadn't called her even one single time. Because I didn't need to call her. I wasn't part of the conversation anymore. I was the entire conversation now. At exactly 10:11 p.m., the hotel room phone rang again. Same front desk voice from this morning, noticeably more nervous and shaky this time. Sir, I'm very sorry to disturb you, but there's a woman down in the lobby who's asking to see you urgently. She has someone with her. Should I tell them you're not available? I didn't even hesitate for a second. Tell her I will meet her tomorrow morning at exactly 9 a.m. sharp. Conference room C. Not before then. I hung up and lay back on the bed, staring at the textured ceiling for a long while. Not because I was uncertain or second-guessing anything I'd done. I was simply conserving my energy for what came next. You don't walk into a confrontation running purely on adrenaline and raw emotion. You walk in with complete control. You carry yourself like the ending has already been written in stone, and you're just there to turn the final page and close the book. I barely slept at all that night, but somehow I wasn't tired when morning came. At exactly 8:55 a.m., I walked into conference room C carrying a leather folder. The hotel staff had arranged everything precisely as I'd requested the night before. Professional conference table set up. Chairs positioned formally. Projection screen already mounted and connected. Small coffee station set up in the corner. Completely neutral, sterile, professional. like a small corporate arbitration room right before an executive termination meeting. William Harrison was already seated at the head of the table when I entered. Polished, quiet, absolutely stone-faced. He was gripping a slim manila folder so tightly his knuckles had gone completely white. I gave him a brief professional nod. He didn't nod back. Seated to his immediate left was an HR representative, probably mid-30s, hair pulled back severely in a tight bun, lips pressed together in a thin line. Next to her sat Brian, who'd flown in overnight from Seattle on a red-eye flight. "You said you wanted this to be surgical and professional," he'd told me when he'd arrived at my room at 6 a.m. "So I brought all the right tools." At exactly 9:02 a.m., Jennifer stepped inside. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. No makeup, hair yanked back in the messy ponytail she only wears when she's actually sick. Her cardigan was buttoned out of order, one side hanging lower than the other. Her skin looked washed out, her lips dry, her hands twisting the strap of her purse non-stop, like she was waiting for a test she already knew she'd fail. She froze when she saw me. Then her eyes moved around the room. Harrison, the HR rep, Brian, and the large projector screen at the front. She didn't sit down. I motioned to the empty chair across from me. "Take a seat." Disarm. "I don't know what this is or why." My voice even. "Go ahead and play it." Manslaughter hit a key on his laptop and the lights dimmed. The security footage filled the screen. First, the elevator lobby, yesterday at 5:47 p.m. Jennifer kissing Derek on the cheek, smiling like she'd won something. Second, the check-in desk, her signature on the forms, the keycard being handed to her. Third, the hallway outside suite 1206, both of them stepping inside together. Fourth, the champagne photo from her iPad, her necklace, his hand on her leg, her loud, easy laugh. The room went completely quiet. Even the coffee machine stopped humming. Jennifer didn't cry yet. She just stared at the screen with her mouth slightly open, breathing faster and faster. Her hand clenched the table like she needed to hold on to stay grounded. When the video ended, nobody spoke for nearly a minute. Then Harrison, calm but cold, said, "Effective immediately, you and Mr. Palmer are placed on administrative leave. An internal investigation will begin as required by company policy. Legal will contact both of you within the next 24 hours. Jennifer finally looked at me, really looked. Her voice shook. "Please don't do this to me." I stared back, not as her husband, but like someone reading a document filled with lies that could be proven wrong. I didn't raise my voice or smile or even blink. "You did this. I'm just dealing with what already happened." I slid a thick folder across the table. It landed softly in front of her. Inside were the separation terms, custody plan, asset division, and an NDA protecting our kids' privacy. Her hands were shaking hard as she opened it. "You planned everything," she whispered. "No," I said slowly, standing. "You created this situation. I only wrote it down." Brian stood too. "If you'd prefer your own lawyer, we can pause for that. But everything in that folder has been cleared by counsel and is fully usable in court." She looked like she might be sick. Harrison picked up his briefcase and stood last. "Risk management will reach out this afternoon. I strongly advise full cooperation." He walked out without another glance, like she wasn't even there. I nodded to HR, then Brian, and left the room without another word. Behind me, I heard Jennifer's voice break, not from anger, but from realizing exactly where her choices had brought her. She hadn't walked into a meeting. She'd walked into consequences. 2 days later, I was at the hotel front desk checking out for good. The same manager who'd made the original phone call stood there, stiff and formal. He didn't ask how my stay had been or offer help. He simply handed me a sealed white envelope. "This is from your wife," he said quietly. I didn't take it right away. I just looked at it. Plain envelope, no name, handwriting I would know anywhere. Then I opened it. Inside were two things. First, a rushed note in her panicked handwriting. "I don't know how to fix this. I never meant for it to turn out this way. Please call me. Please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Second, a folded piece of paper colored with markers, a kid's drawing. 2 smiling stick figures, One tall with brown hair labeled Daddy, and one small holding a red balloon. Across the top, me and Daddy at the zoo. I stood there for a long time, feeling the weight of that drawing more than anything I'd handled in the last 48 hours. It didn't change what Jennifer had done, or what came next legally, but it reminded me of what actually mattered, what I had to protect. I gently put the note and drawing back in the envelope and slid it across the counter. If she comes here looking for me, I said calmly, tell her she should have checked the security cameras before lying. He swallowed and nodded. I walked out into the bright morning sun. I didn't look back at the building, the lobby, or the spot where she'd kissed him in the footage I would never need to see again. I headed to my rental car, the one I'd booked under another name, just in case. No music, no GPS, just the quiet hum of the engine and the road ahead. It wasn't joy, not exactly. It was clarity, and that meant more than any apology she could write on hotel stationery. She could keep her envelope and her excuses. I would keep the truth, and my kids.